Fine.
G'day everyone and welcome to another edition of the Weekend Wrap brought to you by Crowcast. Fantastic win over the weekend to talk about, so without any further ado, let's just get right into it, shall we? Very nice to have everyone along tonight, and welcome to another edition of the Weekend Wrap brought to you by Crowcast. A big win obviously by the Crows last night or yesterday. Great fight back, and we're here to talk about it. Welcome to everyone who's in Discord and who's joining us on YouTube and also on Twitch. Don't forget, if you want to have your say, if you want to have a rant, or if you want to just get around the win, you're welcome on the Discord live audience, so get around there. We have half a dozen people in there already, and joining me tonight as per usual is Macca. How you going, Mac?
Oh, very good, mate. Sorry I was a little bit late, but I just had to knock off some garlic prawns and some ice cream, and I'm here, mate.
I wouldn't want to disturb that, mate. That sounds delicious. Obviously no Nikki tonight, so it'll be a 13-minute podcast, but that's okay. No, we got a bit to talk about.
You're
mate,
a cruel man, Steve. You're a cruel man.
As I said, welcome to everyone who's joined us on Discord, and for those who are listening on demand later in the week, if you want to get around our Discord channel, there's plenty of instructions on our YouTube channel. Just go to just search Crowcast on YouTube. There's a nice little video there on how to hook into Discord with us. Apart from chat during the shows, of course, there's game day chat. And there's basically chat every day of the week, all about the Adelaide Crows. Now, Macca, before we get into your 15 minutes of fame, mate, what'd you think?
Well, our first quarter was probably one of the worst quarters we've had for many a long day. I've become pretty good at seeing and watching games and not swearing and not carrying on, but I must admit, I did lose. I lost it the first quarter. I really did. It started off with that kick from Smith where he's taking a mark and goes for a stab pass right onto their chest, and then we just carried on from there for the rest of that quarter. And I don't believe we played a worse quarter than that probably this year. I don't think so.
Oh, not since the dark days of early 2020. I reckon that was terrible. But it showed a fantastic amount of fight and courage and application to be able to turn that around, not only by the playing group but also the coaching staff. So excellent stuff. All right, now J&M in YouTube is asking, is Nikki sick? No, she's got a couple of prior engagements this week and also next week. Not sure what we're going to do next week with the wrap. We'll probably have some sort of a half-yearly review or something or other. I'm open to suggestions on that one, Crowcast faithful, so hit me up on chat or on Twitter or wherever the hell you interact with us, and give us some ideas about next week, but we'll definitely have a show. Macca, why don't we just crack straight into your 15 minutes of fame, shall we?
Let's do
it. Macca's beloved weekend results wrap up. Don't blame me, you asked for it. And game one, Mac, was a very nice little start to the weekend. Geelong getting up 17-10, 1-1-2 to Port Adelaide 14-7, 91. A margin in the end of 21 points after Port looked like winners towards the end of the match.
Yeah, it was a reasonably well fought game, but the thing that I really noticed about the game, it had massive momentum swings. It wasn't like goal for goal. It was like 3 or 4 goals for 3 or 4 goals. And it was usually like one ridiculous error would actually swing the whole momentum around. Where I think Geelong got Port in the end was basically their little trick with their forward line. When Port are in attack, they tend to bring their forward line right up, bar one. They keep one down deep.
Yeah.
And also, when they do get the ball out of there, they can kick it into space. The forwards swoop on it, or if they get it down far enough, they've got the one-on-one down there. And it's a pretty good forward line down there when you think you've got Cameron getting 5 and Hawkins 4 and Rowan getting 3. So,
very powerful.
Very powerful. And I think that's basically the difference. From what I saw, Geelong might be able to win a flag. I don't think Port can.
Yeah, no. Port should have had that game. They had every opportunity to win it, and they should have had it. Lols on the Discord chat makes a very good point, Macca. The issue was that Geelong are a top 8 side, and of course, Port Adelaide don't beat top 8 sides. So we should have all had money on the
Very true. Yes, I should have. I was a bit annoyed afterwards because I really did think Geelong would win.
Yeah, now we have a couple of blokes who were actually at the game, the Crows game in Cairns last night or yesterday. So J-Mac and the other guy that I've missed his name, started with an A. If you want to give us a on-the-spot report, feel free to hop in the chat at any stage. Put your hand up, and we're happy to have you on. Of course, we're happy to have anyone on, Macca. But particularly if anyone was there that wants to share the atmosphere, feel free to get on board. Now, the next game, Mac, bit of an upset. Hawthorn by 38 points in the end, 14-5-89 to Sydney 7-9-51. Sydney did not look like it.
Absolutely didn't look like it. And, you know, as I said to Mrs. Mack, they look like they're playing on Valiant, that mob, because they really weren't in it at all.
Yeah.
And it's amazing what happens when a lesser standard team, when the players all buy into it, it's amazing how they can actually play. And they played like it all game, and Sydney never looked like they were a chance. They just looked like they were the lesser team. Must mention the mid-season draftee Joe Newcomb with his 13 disposals and 14
Wasn't
tackles.
he good?
The interesting thing was the very first 2 bounces he attended, he stood back and allowed other players to go as if, well, I'm the new boy, I better not go after him.
Yeah.
And I said to Mrs. Mack, what's this guy up to? He won't make it if he does this. But, well, he put me on my backside. After that, he just went for everything. And,
I wouldn't mind betting that a runner went out and said, mate, don't worry about waiting for everyone else. You just go and get the agate because that's what you're here for. And he did very, very well. He
did, didn't he? And the other one that played Hawthorn, Mitchell played very well, as he always usually does. And the interesting one was Stegler, who wasn't in the chosen side originally and only got in there because Reeves, who had been playing well and dropped out, he dominated the rucks, absolutely dominated. And they made Sydney look very ordinary. And it's very clear Sydney can't win a flag. They'll probably be in the top 8, but that's about it.
Well, up forward, they seem to be very reliant on Buddy and Heaney. And I didn't feel like they had any potency up forward whatsoever, and their system going forward was pretty average. So anyway, they're probably looking for the buy, I'd imagine, as a couple of teams are, probably including us as well. We had the Dockers getting up over the Suns by 27 points, 11-10-76 to 6-13-49.
Yeah, look, this is one of these games that, if you were blind, you'd say you'd be an advantage watching the game because it was a pretty ordinary game to watch, mate. It really was. And Freo had key players out as well. I'm talking about good players out. Yeah. And stupidly, I thought Gold Coast would be a chance here. And as I said, stupidly. The longer the game went, the greater the winning margin for Freo. Pete Miller was outstanding for the Gold Coast. He must wonder why he busts his gut every week. And the other comment I'd like to make about that is Lukosius and Rankin, the longer they play up there, the more ordinary they look. And they've got to get themselves out of there if they want to be the players that they should be. That club is no good for young players.
Well, Mac, it's interesting, and I don't want to dwell on it, but we do have a little bit of time because there's not the full complement of games this week. But why is it? The Suns, on paper, have a talented list, and they have had money thrown at them. They've got a decent coach, or he appears to be a decent coach, Chewy G. They've got a decent coaching panel. Why is it that they are perennial losers.
Well, yeah, because somehow their players just don't develop. They just don't develop. The only players that ever play well from Tuke Miller, well, I mean, he does play well every week, and they've had so many young players that have gone all right up there, but not to their full potential, and they go to another club down in Victoria or wherever, and then all of a sudden they become very good players. And so there's something obviously wrong with their development, the whole system for developing young players. And also, I just wonder whether the players really feel they are genuinely in a real football club.
Well, I think you hit on the nail on the head with regards to development, because they run around that stupid NEFL or whatever it is now, and it's not a scratch on the SANFL or the WAFL or the VFL, and so there's a massive step up from their second tier competition to the AFL, and I think you're dead set right that there's players there that are fringe that are just not going to break through, because they haven't got an appropriate competition underneath. And what happens then is you don't get pressure from underneath into the first team. You can see what happens when a team has depth and there's pressure for spots. It just gets an extra 10% out of blokes. But when there's not really pressure for spots because the people underneath aren't really performing, then it all gets a little bit pedestrian in the first team. And I think what you've touched on there is a big issue with regards to how the Gold Coast, and I think once GWS plays out this current list, I think you'll see a similar situation happening with them, because it's the same competition.
Well, sadly, I think you're right again, because we can probably use that as the segue into the next one, which is North Melbourne versus the Giants. And the Giants came out with, North Melbourne came out with massive enthusiasm and, again, total team buy-in. And, this did not look like a bottom team. They played very, very well. Probably blew a couple of chances that they should have got. To me, they are the ones that should have won the game. And I could see the GWS coach, Cameron, just tearing what little hair he's got left out, because he had their players, they really just weren't really switched on. And it comes back to the thing that you're talking about before. They relied so heavy on just a few, a few top players, and the rest of them, there isn't enough pressure below them. And really, in the end, they were lucky to get away with the draw. I mean, they actually did get an opportunity to get a win, because the guy that kicked the 2 goals that got them level had a snapshot and kicked out of bounds. But I think that was justice, and I think a draw at worst was the right result.
Yeah, but for those that missed it, 14-10-94 each, North and the Giants.
There's a comment in the chat. Sorry, there's a comment in the chat too where Default says North lacked belief in that winning, and I think at the end that probably did tell in the last few minutes.
Maybe, but not a bad effort from North Melbourne. It just goes to show that even when some teams look pedestrian, I think the way AFL football is played these days, it's quite easy to be made to look pedestrian when your structures don't quite hold up, or you get a couple of blokes that aren't on point. But there's really not a big gap between top and bottom. North Melbourne are clearly the worst team in the competition, but to be able to take it up to the Giants list, just the same as we've been able to take it up to a couple of top 8 sides this year, shows that if you keep your structures right and you keep your composure under pressure, you're always going to be in the hunt.
Yeah, and I think you're right. There isn't that massive difference. Some of the bottom sides are not as bad as some of the bottom sides of the past. When we think of some of the Carlton ones of the past that could, were perennial.
Fitzroy and those sorts,
Yeah, so I don't think the gap's quite that wide, and it is capable for a bottom side to actually topple a better side. We've shown that. So it's really how much of a buy-in you've got from the players. Are they all on the same page? Are they really with it that day, and
Yeah.
are they giving 100%? And
Yeah.
on our game, I said we had that lackluster first quarter. We increased a little bit of intensity in the second, but in the third and fourth, like if you drew a graph going upwards, it just went off the chart in the last quarter. We were fanatical in the last quarter.
Well, I want to talk to you about a couple of things that Sloaney and Nick said after the game about that. But anyway, let's quickly look at the ladder, and of course it's a bit up and down because there's various amount of games played. But let's just take it as read. We've got Melbourne on top on 44 points, the Bulldogs on 40, Geelong on 36. And then we've got three teams on 32, Brisbane, Port and Sydney. West Coast and Richmond on 28 points in the 8. And then we've got Freo on 24, having played 13 games. GWS on 22, Essendon on 20, along with Adelaide and St Kilda. Carlton on 16 with Gold Coast, Collingwood and Hawthorn on 12. And North Melbourne on 6 points. We're still only 2 games out of pick 2, Mac. Pardon me.
Yes, we're going the wrong direction though, mate.
Well, it's nice to have a couple. I didn't mind winning that game for a variety of reasons, mostly centred around the disaster with Bradley Crouch over the off-season, so I didn't mind getting over St Kilda, but I don't mind if we drop a few now.
Yeah. I watched the game with mixed feelings. You think, well, if we get beaten by a close margin, that's okay. But I must admit, once we got in the last quarter and once we were competitive, well, naturally wanting to win just took over. And the way for it to finish as it did was just outstanding. We'll touch on that later, but that was just outstanding.
It was indeed. Don't forget, if you're in the chat, we're just about to talk about the Crows match. So make sure you get around that, and if you've got something to say, get in the live audience, put your hand up and we'll have you on. All right, Macca, it was the Crows 9-12-66 getting up at the last gasp by 6 points over St Kilda 8-12-60 on the back of an acrobatic last-minute goal from Big Riley Thilthorpe, kicking it over his head on his non-preferred. A great moment for the young lad. And a great moment for the young team, and you could see after the game the way they got around Nixie on the ground before they walked off. They were all loving it.
Yeah, and I mentioned last podcast that I'd read that somebody had said that Phil Thorpe is the greatest talent to walk into the Adelaide Football Club since the days of Andrew McLeod, and look, I'm going to steal that line. That's my line now. I reckon I will say it too. He is dead set the greatest talent's come into this club since Andrew McLeod. He is going to be something very, very special.
Indeed. It's certainly tracking that way. In the first half, I was getting a little bit impatient with him because I wanted to see him take a couple of grabs. I know it was terrible conditions for that. But he did take a couple after half-time, and his work on the ground is... It belies his size and his billing as a ruck tall forward. He's almost like a small forward at times, and the sky's the limit for that young lad. Look, I as an initial thought, I felt like we've had this situation over since the Melbourne win where we've just looked a little bit off the boil. Maybe we're a little bit mentally gassed. There's certainly a couple of comments after the game saying that they were looking for the break, and we've noticed over the last couple of weeks some of the younger lads, Lockie Scholl in particular, has looked a little bit gassed. But gee whiz, isn't it nice to follow a young side that doesn't give up, Macca?
Oh, it is. It really does warm the cockles of your heart, because whether you win or lose, if they're just giving 100%, you just feel that you really want to be part of it yourself, because they're giving everything they've got. And I don't think I've seen an Adelaide football team as fanatical as they were in the last quarter. I mean, they were. I can think of young Berry and other young players like him throwing their body into dangerous situations just to get the ball, or to stop the ball, or to smother it, or whatever. That is the most fanatical I've seen an Adelaide Football Club play for many, many a long day in that last quarter.
And the good thing is, Mac, and we'll get to individuals, I guess, in a moment, but it wasn't like, Sloaney had been quiet for most of the game. He had a massive last quarter. Rory Laird had a massive last quarter and a massive match. But it was the young lads. Harry Schomburg had a fantastic last quarter. Some of his, a lot of people are talking about the little knock on to Lairdy to get that last forward thrust going that ended up with Riley. But there was one about 5 minutes beforehand where he was running through congestion, and he just gave a deft little left-handed handball that looked like it was to no one, but it was perfectly in the path of the teammate running past, and I forget who it was. And I just thought, gee whiz, that is skill, because he was running full pelt, he was in traffic, and it wasn't a bullet or anything, it was just a deft little handball right into the path, and he continues to impress me, Harry Schomburg. I know I rabbit on a little bit, bit of fanboying going on, but my word, if he continues to track the way he's progressed this year, he's going to be a linchpin in our midfield rotations for the next 10 years.
Yeah, and what I do like about him, Feen, is that many a young player, and many a senior player, really under pressure start to panic. He doesn't. He just doesn't panic. He's got a really cool head, and that's what I like about him.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a few. Sorry, go on.
We don't make the biggest thing in the world, but that tap that the centre bounce just showed that. We are. We've got this desperate game going on, trying to get up there, and he can just jump up and think and do that. And and then many other, and the handball you mentioned, many other things the guy did in that last quarter. He just showed how he is going to be a very, very good player for us for a very long time.
And look, Samberry as well, I think really benefited. Not that he would have liked to have been injured, but I think he benefited from having that little spell because he was another one I felt in conditions that were causing so many problems for so many players. His ability to take the ball at ground level at pace was pretty special for a young kid, and I think when you're talking about future inside midfielders, we've got a real bulldog there in Sam Berry. But not only that, he's clean and he distributes well. So I thought the fact that our young lads, McHenry was another one, Riley obviously was another one. The fact that our young lads were integral to that last quarter, as well as big efforts from Sloaney and Laird in particular, just was really good signs for the future. It wasn't left up to the old stages. The young lads really picked it up as well and got us over the line.
Yep, even Road had a stinker of the first half, had a very good second half, Feen.
Agreed. Chase Jones was another one. Chase Jones was another one who I felt had a better second half as well.
Well, Jones actually got a reasonable amount of the ball this time. He does lack some awareness. I mean, a very good example of that was when he beat a player for the ball, and then instead of running away from it, he sort of stopped.
Yeah, no, just stopped. It was a bit weird.
And, that was weird.
I guess what I'm saying is that all the young lads stepped up. Geordie Butts had a great game, and we're going off format here. But my point, I guess, is that all the young players were involved in that second half fight back, and that's really good to see, in my opinion.
It was, and no less young Phil Thorpe himself, of course, is only an 8-game player.
Exactly. Lots to like, Mako. Lots to like. Let's just have a look at selection as we tend to do before we get too carried away there. Look, selection to me was fairly predictable, but it was very nice to see Josh Worrell get a start. And boy, what a start for the young lad, managing to be a part of that win. I didn't think he set the house on fire. I felt like he went to ground a little bit too often and looked a little bit, overawed, which is normally why blokes go to ground when they're just feeling a little bit rattled and overawed. But nice to have him in the mix.
To be very honest, I thought he was overawed by the situation, and he did find the lift-in standard very, very hard for him, and I think he only got about 3 possessions for the day. But I did think that in the last quarter he just got a little bit closer to the ball, a little bit closer to the players, and probably starting to get the feel of what it's all about, because it was a tough game to come into and to have your first game, and also tough conditions to play in as well. Yeah. So I would keep him in for one more and just see how he goes next time, because he's now experienced what that pressure is like and what he has to do. And as I said, he didn't have a good one this time, and really most players playing their first game don't. So I would say just give him another game or two, and I think he'll come good.
Yeah, I hope they do. I haven't been terribly happy with how they've treated Ronan O'Connor in that space, but hopefully they do keep Josh in for another game after the break. So we had him and Sam Berry in. The only ongoing query for mine is Shane McAdam. I thought, I wondered whether Shane actually might give way instead of, say, Nick Murray or even Ronan O'Connor, given the conditions. And without going into specifics, I thought that Shane had another average game. Must be worrying them at selection. It has to be. He's not producing.
The one thing I will say about there are many a game recently I think I would accuse him of not really trying very hard. I thought at least he tried a lot harder. Again, not necessarily setting the world on fire, but I thought there were times at least he did show some effort. But yeah, look, his position would be a little bit in danger.
Yeah. Kempy in the chat says Cook can take his spot. Well, I saw a young lad play his first game in the SANFL today, Lockie Gallant, and I thought Lockie Gallant was a ready-made third tall, to be honest with you. I actually thought he played. I mean, Cook did play well today, but Lockie Gallant for his first game looked pretty damn good to me.
He did show something, didn't he, Feen? He really did.
Yeah, I liked him. I liked him a lot, and it was a good win by the SANFL Crows today too, against Sturt, who have been informed. So nothing much really to say about selection. Of course, people will have an ongoing debate about David McKay, and David McKay showed that, like him or not like him, he will always put his body on the line, and as a consequence, he's going to the tribunal. And I'm going to say to you right now, Macca, that it'll be an absolute travesty if he gets rubbed out for that. Absolute travesty.
Has that actually been decided?
It's gone straight to the tribunal. It's been ungraded. Okay, so the MRP didn't make a call on what they thought it was. Straight to the tribunal. I reckon that's ridiculous. That was two blokes going for a contested ball. McKay went for the ball. He didn't run past the ball to take the player out or anything like that. It was a collision that you see often in football, and if he gets games for that, our game is permanently changed. Well,
it's stuffed, because if you actually watch the vision at the point of collision, both players have got hands on the ball. David McKay actually was going for the ball. He had his hands on the ball as well.
Yep.
So you cannot penalise a guy for going for the ball.
No, you just can't.
That was a sheer football accident. David McKay, and if you watch his eyes never varied off the ball. No. He didn't even know where that player was there. No. He just went straight at the ball.
And he knew he had to go in hard because it was a contested situation. And he did exactly what you teach young fellas to do. He turned his body, got low, and, as you say, got his hands on the agate. He got there a split second before, what was his name? Hunter, or who it was? I can't remember his name. And it was just dead set bad luck. Hunter Clark, dead set bad luck. And if he gets games, I'll be ropeable. And if he does get games, I hope the Adelaide Football Club appeal on principle.
Oh, they have to. They have to. Look, every TV, radio people, and these are footballers who have played the game and understand what's going on out there, not some dickhead who makes some decisions and always seems to get them wrong. But every one of them, without exception, has said that there is nothing there. He should not be suspended.
Yep. So we'll see. Tex Walker gets a $5,000 fine for spalling a guy in the head. $3,000 with an early plea. He'll probably take that. Save himself a couple of thousand. I guess it's fair enough.
Well, yeah. He has been a bit loose around people's head a bit this year. He's lost a bit of change.
Yeah, he's probably going all right, mate. But you see a lot of those get let go, you know.
Well, it depends, though. You know, Adelaide Crows, nothing gets let go, mate.
No, that's very true. That's very true. Anyway, just a reminder, of course, everyone that's in chat there, if you want to have something to say, get in the live audience, stick your hand up. Now's the time to have your say, particularly if you happen to be at the game in Cairns. J-Mac, it'll be great to hear from you. Oh, there he is too, J-Mac. Here we go. I don't think we've had J-Mac on before. There you go, mate. You're invited in. Make sure your microphone's on. How you going, mate? No, muted. There you go.
Yeah, hang on.
You're good now.
You're with us, mate. We're waiting for all the goodies now.
Can you hear me?
Can do. How you going?
No.
We can hear you, mate.
He obviously can't hear us.
No.
No, it's a long way to Queensland. Takes a while for the sound to travel.
I can't seem to hear you.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us now, mate? I don't know what's going on there, mate.
Right. I'll flick you back to the audience, J-Mac, and if you get that audio sorted out, we'll have you back on. Yeah, we could hear you, mate, but obviously you couldn't hear us, so hopefully you can get that sorted and come back on and say g'day. All right, Mac, so let's have a look at some head-to-heads, shall we? What's going on here? Okay, so disposal-wise, 381 to 357 disposals, 236 kicks to 223. In St Kilda's favour, also handballs 145 to 134 in St Kilda's favour. Inside 50s evened up. It was pretty lopsided there for a while, but ended up being 57-54 just in the Saints' favour. Disposal efficiency also evened up to around about 63%, which under the circumstances was probably pretty reasonable. Efficiency inside 50 at one stage, I think in the first quarter we were at 17%, Macca, efficiency inside 50. We ended up at 48.1 and St Kilda at 35.
Surprised it was as high as 17. We were terrible.
Oh, shocking. Free kicks were even, but I thought actually the umpiring was fucking shocking, to be honest with you. I really did.
Well, yes, it was, but I thought it was pretty shocking to both sides, though. So I really didn't take much out of the umpires, really, for once.
No, I thought, was it Stevic, I think, was one of them, and he just gave it to us all night. The other two were probably as bad, going the other way, but Stevic gave away some shockers. Hit-outs, Rob got towed up a little bit, 35, hit-outs to 45. Clearances, though, 30 to 46 in our favour, including 11 to 8 centre clearances and 35 to 22 stoppage clearances. Possession, we had 164 to 161 contested possessions, 168 to 200 uncontested possessions. That disparity was even more substantial at half-time. I can't remember the numbers, but it was almost 2-1 in St Kilda's favour at half-time. Turnovers, both sides burnt the ball as you'd expect, but we had a couple of players that burnt the ball terribly, and we'll touch on those soon. 104 turnovers to 91. The season average there is around about 70.
That's really bad. Really bad.
Yeah, I mean, it was a shocking night in terms of conditions. It was slippery, and then it started to rain, and that's another thing too. Don't forget that we came back in the rain up there. It just adds another Another gold mark to that. Speaking of marks, 70 marks to 43. That probably illustrates St Kilda's, particularly in the first half, ability to keep the ball off us and just a lot of uncontested possession. Marks inside 57 to 5. Wasn't a big marking night. 12 to 4 contested marks though. For St Kilda, we were very low on our contested marks, but the ball did spend a lot of time on the ground. I'd just like to highlight time in front.
Yes.
St Kilda 118 minutes, Adelaide 3 minutes. And I reckon 2 of those minutes was bloody James Rowe lining up for a shot after the siren when we'd already run. Someone should have just gone up to Jimmy and said, would you just bloody kick it so we can get off the ground? We've already won. Anyway,
Exactly. I have no idea where he hung onto the ball.
No idea what he was doing. 102 tackles to 57 is a concern, Macca. And tackles inside 50, 26 to 6. And I think most of those 6 tackles inside 50 actually came in the last quarter.
I got a feeling we only had 3 at half time.
Yeah, it wasn't many.
No, it was either, I think it was 3 at half time. It was, they were in the 20s and we were 3.
Yep, wasn't many.
And, I mean, it got better as the game went on, but it was, well, as I say, our first quarter in particular, maybe the first 1.5 quarters were the worst football I've seen this club play for a long time.
Yep. What else have we got here? 1%ers, St Kilda's away, 73 to 51. That's really the tail of the tape in terms of the head-to-head stuff. But, gee whiz, Mac. Whoops. It was one of those things where we just, for a while there, we just didn't look like it.
We were actually we're really just hanging in there on the efforts of 2 or 3 people, and I mean, Seaman I thought was very good all day.
No.
No, I haven't finished yet. He didn't always do everything right, but I did like his effort.
Oh no.
Well, okay. Obviously disagree. You tell me why.
Oh, because he had 13 disposals and 15 bloody effective disposals for the night out of 30. He got the ball. He got the ball. No, he only used it half the time.
Yeah,
didn't like Seaman's game. Sorry.
Okay, we'll disagree. At least I did like the fact that at least he was getting the ball when nobody else was. That's probably what I did like.
I made the remark in the game day chat, Macca, that when Seaman got the ball, the Saints players were leading because he was more likely to kick it to them than us.
I thought Smith was a bit in that category as well.
Yes, absolutely. Look, he had mates, and yes, he got a lot of the ball, and he did, particularly in the first half, he did quite well, and he had a good third quarter as well. But he just burnt it so much. Unfortunately, I can't have him in my top 5 best players because he just burnt the ball so much.
You're a harsh man, Frank.
Not a harsh man.
No,
why you overlook? You've gone soft in your old age.
Maybe I have. I don't know. But I just thought that we were not just him. I thought most of our players were burning the ball in the first half. So I was just pleased he was making some effort to get the bloody thing. Because some of the players, I looked at their stats at half time, and they were the players had 2 touches, 3 touches, 4 touches, and that's probably where I was going by. And I agree with you about the efficiency. We left a lot to be desired, but he was in good company. I say Smith, Laird. Most of the blokes who were getting the ball didn't do much with it anyhow, which didn't help us much.
Well, we went back into that old thing of not enough disposals in transitions, and I'm sure that the instruction would have been, it's a wet night, don't be too cute with it. But what that seemed to result in was blokes just not running and providing options. So we ended up with a situation in that first half where we were just kicking it to their half-back line. Blindly kicking it to their half-back line. So I don't mind us not being cute in wet weather, but I think it might have just been a a bit scrambled in the boys' heads because there was no effort to spread, there was no effort to switch play. We were just up and down the line, up and down the line, up and down the line, and it was just coming back with interest. And St Kilda, to their credit, when they were getting possession off halfback, they were spreading and they were stretching out defence. And because we were all running forward of the play, we were out of position, and they were able to get some easy shots at goal as a consequence. So, I think it's been noticeable in every game that we've lost, is that our transition work has fallen down, and it's usually associated with work rate and being switched on, in my opinion.
Yeah, and in the first half, you are right. I was getting so frustrated where we were doing that kick from behind centre up to about not even quite the 50-metre mark, and of course straight rebounded. And after half time, I think the coaches obviously said to him, for God's sake, let's make sure we do use the handball in our links and our runs. And after that, we did some very, very good bits of play. And playing the type of game that avoids exactly what we were talking about was happening in the first half. That is a game which is dead set for losers, that kicking it from, between half back and centre up to your own. It's just over centre to around about the 50-metre mark, or not quite there, because it's going to come flying back at 100 mile an hour into the danger territory. So, there was that big noticeable change in the way we played after half-time as opposed to the way we played before half-time. And maybe the coach did say, don't overdo it because it's wet, but we do have to play that way because that's when we play our best.
Yeah. Well, what ended up happening, particularly in that last quarter, is we were able to get territory, and we were able to push up and get repeat forward 50 entries. And in nights like last night, when it's just wet and slippery and no one's taken a mark and the ball's hard to dispose, it's all about territory. And in the end, like the query after halftime was always, have we just left it, given ourselves too much of a gap to bridge, but it was just really a matter of attrition in the end and weight of forward 50 entries in the end that got us over the line. And yes, we left it to the last minute, Macca, but from about halfway through the last quarter, it was really a case of, gee whiz, I reckon we might just be able to sneak this.
Yeah, I'm probably at the beginning of the last quarter, I thought, we'll probably just end up running a little bit short, but as the game went on, you just started thinking in that last quarter it could happen. It really could happen. And then when we started just to dominate the ball being in our area, and they just couldn't get it out, and our boys were so fanatical at it, I was starting to believe. I did start to believe, and then when Thilthorpe did that, that's got to be goal of the year, doesn't it?
Oh, give it up. How many times did you kick the ball over your head, Mac?
I've actually done it myself, mate. But
exactly. It was a great goal, and it was great for the kid to do it, and it showed good footy IQ and good awareness and all the rest of it. But goal of the year, turn it up.
I just think at the stage of the game, it was with your wrong foot and all the rest of it, pretty good. But okay, probably
pretty good.
Goal of the week, maybe.
Definitely goal of the week.
You take goal.
I'd take goal of the week. Yeah, I'd take goal.
All right.
Let's just not get carried away.
All right, I was a little bit carried away.
I saw that bloody Port bloke, whoever it was, kick that reverse checky, and that was pretty good for goal of the week too, I reckon. That was fantastic.
He is a beautiful kick, that lad, for Port.
But that was calculated. That was a reverse check side, and you know what happens with check sides once they start to descend? They actually go back the other way. And he did that perfectly. He reverse checked it so that it actually got the angle that he needed, and then it just faded in lovely. It was fantastic.
And the other thing that surely Thilthorpe should get the Rookie of the Week, or what do they call it, the Rising Star.
Yeah.
Surely they go by the body of work, and he's done some body of work.
Yeah, so, maybe. Now, J&M in the YouTube chat says, how come we don't have a super chat option? Well, the simple truth is, J&M, we're not up to 1,000 subscribers yet. And the only way you're going to get yourself a super chat option is if you tell your mates to bloody subscribe on YouTube. I think we're just a tick over 300 at the moment. Certainly grown substantially this year, which has been fantastic. But in order to get those extra options and get a few community options as well on YouTube, we need to get over 1,000. So make sure you tell your mates and all your Crow supporting friends to get around the Crowcast on YouTube, give us a subscribe and a like, and hopefully at some stage we can get over 1,000 subscribers and we can start adding some of those things. Similarly, of course, if you are watching on YouTube, get around us on Discord as well. It's we're up to 183 members now, Mac. I'd like to get to 200 within the next fortnight. It's only 17. And considering we started off the year with about 60, that's fantastic. So, and everyone's really getting involved. The game day chat is fantastic. Lots of good discussion going on. It's not too much melting and not too much, vitriol towards other people, which is great. It's a really good place to chat about the footy while you're watching it. So get around that. Okay, Mac, let's have a look at some players' stats, shall we? If I can get this sorted. Logo. Where are we? One moment, please. All right. There we are. So, let's just go through a few. Rory Laird, I thought, had a standout game. Yes, he was wasteful at times, but his ability to get in and under and continue to get the agate was pretty good. 33 touches, 20 kicks, 13 handballs, 1 mark, 8 tackles, 10 clearances. 446 metres gained. I thought Rory's game was pretty good. What do you think?
Yeah, well, he was actually very heavily tagged in the first half of the game.
Yep.
Very heavily tagged.
Pretty much all the games they had Dunstan on him, didn't they?
They did. And I think he restricted him to Rory to about perhaps 12 or 13 possessions in the first half. But then Rory just brushed him right off in the second half and just played a fantastic second half. And
just went to work, I felt. Rory just went to work.
I just cannot believe a bloke his shape and size plays as well as he does. He's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Probably because he's got probably the lowest balance of gravity that you've got on a player, I reckon.
Yeah, probably.
Somebody said Laird looks like a fridge.
Well, he's called the desk, isn't he?
Yeah, he's called the desk at the club.
It's called the desk, mate. That's his name.
Yeah, that's factual. Players call him the desk.
Anyway, I thought he was really good. 18 contested possessions, 14 uncontested possessions, 6 score involvements, which we like to see. He was obviously integral, 5 inside 50s. So a good effort by Lairdy. Now, Benny Keys, obviously 31 touches, 21 kicks, 10 handballs, 10 tackles, if you don't mind, 5 clearances, 613 metres gained, which is excellent by Ben. Also had 5 inside 50s, 5 score involvements, 4 intercepts, 9 contested possessions, 15 uncontested possessions. A pretty solid game from Ben once again.
He's been an outstanding get, hasn't he? I can't remember us getting a player of somebody else's scrap heap like that, and them being probably amongst our best 3 players. So he's been outstanding, and he was again, and he's very consistent. He does it week after week.
Yeah. Now I just finished saying, Macca, that our chat is a nice place to be, and at the moment we've got a couple of people going at each other. If you wouldn't mind just taking it offline. One of the things about the Crowcast chat is that we're respectful of everybody, and I'd like to see that continue during the show chat. So if you've got a disagreement, there's a private message facility at Discord. Go your hardest, but not on a live chat. Thanks. It's not big footy here, Macca. It's not big footy.
A very good point. I was looking at the chat, and really, it's only about opinions. And look, opinions are like arseholes. Everybody's got one, and it's not really worth having a fight about it.
Yep, no, that's right. We have opinions too, and half the time I'm bloody wrong. Most people think I'm wrong about Seedsman tonight, and I'm happy to wear that. And I'll be wrong again, Mac. But anyway, let's not dwell on it. Just play the ball, not the man in the chat. Thanks, everyone. All right, speaking of Seeds, let's have a quick look. 20 kicks, 11 handballs, 4 marks, 6 tackles, 4 clearances, 717 metres gained, just continues to knock up gaining metres for us, Mac. He had 7 inside 50s, 6 score involvements, 7 intercepts, 9 contested possessions, 22 uncontested possessions. On paper, statistically, a very good game, Macca. I'll grant you that.
I'll stick with it. I thought I was happy with it. And look, and the fact that he didn't keep hitting the targets all the time in the first quarter was probably that was pretty typical of everybody in the team at that stage. So I think it's a little bit harsh just to single him out. And I do like the fact that he just kept going, and he eventually did improve. So I had him up in my top 3 players. I know he's not in your top 5, but he's in my top 3, and we both have our opinion on that one.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I would probably have Harry Schoenberg in my top 5 ahead of Seed. Didn't get as much of the ball. 10 kicks, 8 handballs, 3 marks, 2 tackles, 4 clearances, 238 metres gained. But I just felt like he was integral to our charge in the second half, Mac. And Seed was actually quite quiet in the last quarter. I think he only had about 3 or 4 touches in the last quarter. Harry Schoenberg went to work, and I just love what he brings. And yes, I'm a bit of a fanboy, so I'll probably cop that.
Have you noticed though, there's a bit of a trend though with Harry? He must have very good stamina, because I reckon if you and I don't know this as a fact, but it just seems to me, thinking about it, that statistically he always seems to be very good in the last quarter.
Yeah. It's interesting because he probably doesn't have the tank on the surface, but when he gets involved, I wonder sometimes whether he is left languishing a little bit at half forward. But gee, when he gets involved all right. Sloaney was another one who absolutely, I'm not even lying here, Macca. I checked the team sheets halfway through the first quarter to see if Rory was actually laid out, because I hadn't seen him. He was nowhere. And then that last quarter that he played was a real captain's last quarter. He obviously sensed that we were in with a shot. And boy, oh boy, if ever there's an example of a bloke putting us on their shoulders, it was Sloaney in the last quarter along with Lairdy.
They're feeling about Rory. He was the first half. He is so poor that Mrs. Macca, who's an absolute fan and loves Rory to death, he said to me in the second quarter, "Oh, there's Rory. He's playing." Yeah, and she wasn't being sarcastic.
Yeah, that's how I felt about it. To be honest with you.
Yeah, because I must admit, which he said, I thought, God, I haven't noticed him either. And to his credit, his first half, as bad as it was, I thought he had an excellent second half, and he also showed a lot of courage on occasions as well, which set a very good example for the young lads and helped them have belief in us as well. So, well done to Rory. Shit house first half, but lifted your game and did what a captain should do.
Yeah, and he had a few mates. Jimmy Rose, another one who I thought just stunk it up in the first half. Wasn't anywhere.
Horrible.
He was integral in the second half. He ended up with 18 disposals, but it's his score involvements, 9 score involvements for the game. He's very creative with ball in hand, and he seems this is going to be an interesting one for the Crows selection committee when we've got a full hand on deck, because I feel like Jimmy Rowe actually plays his best work, or does his best work up the ground. And since Lockie Murphy has been out of the side, we've seen Rowe get up the ground a little bit with good effect. He's very good in traffic, and he's far more creative with ball in hand than Lockie Murphy. And the problem is that Jimmy Rowe's in there as a goal sneak. So what do you do about that?
I 100% agree with everything you said, because once in that, like, he was terrible. His first half was shocking. In the second half, sometimes he was up as far as half back on the wing, and as you say, and he uses the ball so well when he's got it.
He does.
And I really gave him a good big tick for his second half, but I reckon, as you quite correctly said, he's much more dangerous up around the ground. I wouldn't be playing him on the forward pocket. I'd be playing on a half-forward flank, and because he does play that very well. That gets him into the play around the midfield or further. And he had a very good second half after a horrible first half.
Yeah, he 100%, and it sort of leaves that forward pocket spot open, maybe for Tariq if he ever gets up to scratch, or Lockie when he comes back. But I like Jimmy Rowe playing high better than Lockie Murphy, because Lockie Murphy plays it like a big man and tries to take marks, whereas Rowe puts himself at the feet of packs, and when he's got ball in hand, he doesn't panic. He's quite good through traffic, and he's always looking to put someone to advantage. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, no, he's a good thinker once he's got the ball in his hands.
And SC in the chat mentions Isaiah Dudley, who's part of our NGA program. I don't know whether you saw that, Mark. Oh, my goodness me. That was a mark. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I said to Mrs. Mack, I just can't believe how these Indigenous lads can go straight up. They can jump so high.
Oh, my God, yeah. And just quietly, there was another lad playing in that game who's going to be in the draft pool this year, Morgan Ferres. Kicked 7-4, Mac. And if ever you wanted a mid-sized third tall option, he's your man right there. I reckon Peter and I might have a chat about him on Tuesday night. But yeah, very, very good. Very, very good player, and quite unique in the draft pools. So a couple of ones out of that reserve's going to watch.
Likely to go about what level, Feen?
Well, it's hard to say. I'd say he's in the second round. But yeah, it looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. Anyway, Brodie Smith had a bit of an almost night, I thought. Had 18 touches, 16 and 2, 4 marks, 2 clearances, gained 620 metres, 3 inside 50s, 4 score involvements, 5 intercepts. So not a bad night from Brodie, but he was certainly one that burnt it a bit. And the trouble with Brodie and Seedsman, when they burn it, they really burn it. It's like me teeing up at the Pat Macca. I can either belt it 280 metres down the middle, or I can scrub it along the ground into the grass, into the rough. There's no middle ground.
I'm very good at that second option. No, I'm a bit the same. I rather fancy myself as a driver, and I fancy myself above my ability.
Better have a game of golf one day, Mac.
And occasionally I get one in the centre feet, and it goes a long way. And I think, geez, I'm fucking good. And then, and then the other 9 times it topples off the tee or goes slicing away somewhere else.
Yeah,
it can be a frustrating game at times.
It's all about equipment, mate. I was having a dirty day playing with Cam one day, not long ago, and he'd just bought himself one of those new bloody ping drivers that looked like something out of the space shuttle. And I wasn't hitting the ball off the tee at all well, and I said, give me that bloody driver and let me have a hit. And straight down the guts. I was like, yeah, it's technology, mate. It's all it is. The kids of today, they couldn't have played with the old Persimmon woods that we used to play with, could they, mate?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I can't.
No, that's right. Anyway, let's get back to it. What do you think about O'Brien's game? I felt he tried hard. Had 16 possessions, which is pretty good. 12 and 4. 30 hitouts. He got beaten statistically anyway in the ruck. But I felt like he added some value at ground level. 6 inside 50s, if you don't mind, from the big fella. 4 score involvements, 5 intercepts, 7 contested possessions. So, and his ability to back up his work is starting to return. It was always a strength of his second and third efforts in those stoppage situations. And I feel like he's just starting to get back to that a little bit.
I rated his game very highly around the ground. I thought that his efforts to either mark the ball, spoil the ball, scramble for it at the ground level, etc. I gave him a great big tick, and if we were going to judge him just on that, he'd be high up in our best players. But in terms of ruck, the interesting thing is that he struggled mostly against Hunter, who he is,
he's understudy.
He's understudy for many, many years here. And he struggles against those guys with big, long, tall arms because he's not a massive jumper off the ground, and they're the type that give him trouble every time. And Hunter would have got every time when he was in opposed to O'Brien, he would have got as many taps as O'Brien did, or negated his as well. Yeah. And so not so much in his ruck work. Wasn't horrible, but I was very, very pleased with his groundwork.
Yeah, I feel like his groundwork is starting to improve again. Interesting that he came out a couple of weeks ago and said that he'd been carrying something for the first part of the season, which was fairly evident, really. But he's just starting to get his hands on a few more marks, and he's just starting to stay in the contest a bit longer, like we know he can. And when he does do that, it's a big bonus for us around stoppage. The other bloke, there's a couple of blokes left, but one bloke that I don't think gets enough credit is Geordie Butts. I think Nicky said last week about Geordie not getting a rising star. I actually think he misses out by one day in terms of the qualification age. Yep. But my goodness me, if there's anyone who deserved a rising star nom, it's Geordie for his body of work in the first half of this season. And again, I thought last night on largely on King, I thought he did everything right.
Well, it's interesting. Peter used to be, who's with you on Tuesday night. He used to be a real fan of his long before anybody else was, and kept telling us how good he was going to be. Yep. And
both Pete and Nicky actually loved his work.
Yes, Nicky too. So, hi Nicky, you were very good at getting that right.
1990 Crow says that Butts continues to grow every week, which sounds like mine.
Yeah, well, look, the big question I was going to ask you, Feen, was Talia's available to play. Let's say he's available to play. Yeah. Who have you got at full back? Have you got him or Butts?
It's an interesting one, Macca, because I think at this stage, Geordie is more dynamic in the back half. Talia will always give you 100% and has an amazing track record at keeping his opponent quiet. But Geordie can also get involved in transition. As Vardy says, he always has a crack.
Yes,
Never seems to fall into a hole. Let's get them all out of the way now. Come on, let's just get them all out of the way now. All these people that just showing a bit of cheek in chat at the moment. Macca, there's another one. But yeah, look, in all seriousness, I think I'd probably stay with Geordie, to be honest with you.
I think I would, because, Talia is obviously coming towards the end of his career, and I'd have him probably playing, if there is another tall in the other team in the pocket, just let him stand them, because I think Butts is our fullback of the future, so that's why I wouldn't take him away from that position. And the way that Talia is going, he's going to be very lucky to play at all this year because he's had a little bit of a setback apparently with his injury.
I don't think he'll play this year.
No, so from my point of view, I would say, Butts, you've got the position. Talia, you've been very good for us. We'll try and put you in the position somewhere to play. And he'd do a good role standing, wrestling, ruckman, or other tall forwards. Somebody says I think Talia will be traded. Look, who knows?
I don't know. I don't know whether. I mean, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because Daniel Talia has been the epitome of team player. He's a Victorian that has stuck fat with the Crows through his entire career. He's not comparatively old, but his body has seemed to be a weakness over the last couple of seasons. I don't think he's worth much on the trade table. I really don't. And it'd be nice if somehow we could make Daniel a one club player, because I think for the little that we'd get with him on trade table, it's not worth discarding him. Having said that, I think Daniel being the team man that he is, I think he'd accept it. I think Daniel would have to accept the fact that when matchups call for one tall, like they have done at times this year, I think he's the one that makes way rather than Geordie.
Yeah, I think so, because Butts has held the position down well all year, and I think we have to stay committed to him, not say when Tony comes back, you go somewhere else now. You don't do that.
No.
The guy is making a real career for himself as a fullback, and we just leave him there. That's my opinion. Which comes to the other point, is not just Talia. Lynch, the man who was fit enough to be our sub but can't play for about 93 weeks, do we give him another contract thing?
No. But we will, because he is seen as part of the senior leadership group, and is talked about in bloody revered terms around the corridors of the Crows. He will not. He will not get traded. The issue is he's no longer, in my opinion, he's no longer part of our best 22, Tommy. The game has changed in terms of his role through the halcyon days when he was that link man. It's not quite the same. I can't see a spot for Tommy, and I feel like whenever Tom's in the side, our transition slows right down.
Well, it does. That's factual. There's no doubt about it. And when and Tom's not bad. He leads up and he gets the ball, and he might get it between wing and half back, and the hesitation he takes is just too long. Yeah. Whereas that's not the style of footy we're playing at the moment. And there's another couple of players in that position, and I think the club's going to be in a very awkward position because the players that we're talking about have been very long, loyal warriors for the club.
They have.
But time has passed. There's a new breed coming on. The role of the footy club is to try and win a flag, and it's not necessary to be nice to everybody. So, unfortunately, I think the nastiest part of football is the end of a player's career.
Especially under these circumstances, Macca, it's not as if he's just falling out of favour or whatever, or these players are falling out of favour. They're at the back end of their careers at a time when the Adelaide Crows are going through a rebuild and needing to get games into blokes. And we've already seen a few occasions where the senior player has probably been fortunate to get selected ahead of a younger lad. But as I mentioned, we've got blokes like Lockie Gallant in the twos. We've got Luke Pedler coming through in the twos. We've got Cook coming through in the twos. We've got one or two others as well, and they're just going to get squeezed out. These older fellas. I felt like Rory Sloane's post-match interview. Was it post-match or was it today? No. It was post-match. Was excellent, because I feel like Rory has really taken on that role of bringing the next generation through. I think he knows in his heart that he's never going to play in an AFL premiership. And I think Tex would be the same, that he knows he's not going to play in an AFL premiership. But they are working hard to bring these blokes through, and there's only so many you can have on the ground, and I think Tom Lynch actually keeps a young bloke out to the detriment of our future, and I don't think it'll happen.
And does the endless Mackay keep playing?
Well, Mackie, you can't knock him, can you? I mean,
no, I'm not knocking the guy. I'm just saying the endless.
Two of the last 3 weeks, he's played really well. He still doesn't get huge numbers, but there's going to be a stage where there's just not room for him because we've got 933 running halfback flankers. We've got a few wingers. That's D-Mac's spot. So when blokes like Miller come back on the park, I think you'll find that eventually D-Mac's going to have to give way. But I'll never knock David Mackay for his effort or his willingness to put his body on the line. And when he kicked that goal, I think I put in the game day chat, we win, and we were still a couple down. But he doesn't often kick goals, but he seems to kick goals when we win. So, look,
well,
I'd rather he wasn't in the team, Macca. I'd rather he wasn't in the team, but I cannot argue the fact that he is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And because I noticed that who's left to sign for the club, and apart from Matt Crouch, most of the ones that are unsigned are these elderly type players who are injured at the moment. And do they get an extension or don't they get an extension type thing? So I think the club's got the same quandary as we're thinking about now.
Oh, look, it's going to be a very interesting off-season once again. There's a couple, I think. Jake Kelly is another one who I think is fast becoming a liability down back. Yes, he does play a very good lockdown defensive role, but we've got lads coming through. Worrell played on the weekend. That's basically the spot that Worrell's going to fill in that back line. Jake is very limited in many ways with his football, and I didn't think he played particularly well again on Saturday night. We can't keep persisting with these guys.
I think he's had a very solid year, Kelly, but the one knock on him is the fact that once he's got the ball, it doesn't move very quickly from there.
No, a couple of times he's run through and been a little bit more decisive this year, but by and large, he's a very limited player, and that's fine. He's forging a career in that space, and that's all well and good. I guess what I'm saying is I think these senior blokes have to realise, and I'm sure that they do, they had their opportunity. 2016 to 2018 was their opportunity. That's when that squad was at its peak. And they had one crack at it and failed. They certainly failed a few other times as a squad too over the course of the previous few years. And unfortunately, a lot of them are going to walk away without a flag to their names, and that's a shame. But they have to pass it over, and that's why I was so impressed with what Rory Sloane said and his attitude in that interview, because it really felt to me that it was the words of a guy who has taken on that responsibility of bringing the next lot through.
No doubt about that. I agree with PJ. He actually says that Kelly's reliable. Worrell would be the one foot to take his spot, but he's not quite ready yet. And I think that's true. I think it'd be interesting, though, PJ, whether Worrell develops over the next 6-8 months that he can take over that spot. He actually got shown up in this particular game, but that's his first game, and I think you've got to see him another one or two times before we can really make that judgment.
Yeah. Now, don't forget, while we're prattling on here, we've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 in the live audience, so now's the time. If you want to have something to say, J-Mac, we'd love to hear from you if you've got your audio sorted out there, but anyone else as well, if you want to come on and have a say, feel free. Now's the time. We'll probably keep going for another 10 or 15 minutes or so, Macca. Look, at the end of the day, I think, we've hit the bye now, and just one or two more players. Even though Ned McHenry's numbers weren't great, his attack on the ball is second to none, and I've really grown to like Ned after being very doubtful about him early. But someone is going to have to get him to take the umpires director out for lunch, because the umpires cannot stand him.
Well, there's no doubt about that. I was just going to raise that very point that, like you, I've actually grown to really, really like Ned because now he concentrates on either getting the ball or getting the player that's got the ball, rather than just being a little turd. He is a very likeable player because he's giving 100%, but the umpires don't seem to like him. He gets very some very dodgy frees against him. I mean, really dodgy.
Yep, hate his guts. Vardy Magic says that Ned needs to impact the scoreboard more. I probably don't disagree, but we've been using him fairly high, Vardy, and maybe there's an opportunity for him and Jimmy Rowe to kind of rubber band between that small forward and that high half forward role. I think
good point, Feen. Because he's been coming up as far as half back all the time. So you don't kick too many goals when you're going up around that high. He's been really working more between, not the pocket so much. He's been working between half forward and half back.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, very much. And everyone's saying Ned's chirpy on the ground. He is chirpy, but that doesn't mean that the rules change. You know what I mean? And I think it's an indictment on the umpires that they're impacted by someone mouthing to the extent that they don't apply the rules of the game. And J-Mac put it really well when he says Ned gets all the soft frees paid against him. He certainly does. He's only got a sniff on a bloke, and he gets paid a free against him, and he doesn't get much from the umpires going the other way. So anyway, I do like him. Now, Darcy Fogarty is another one who I just feel is starting to feel like maybe he's a part of it and starting to become a little bit more involved. I know his numbers aren't big, but I just feel like his energy levels are up, and it indicates to me that maybe he's been given a word to say you're part of the future, that we've obviously just re-signed him during the week, which was fantastic. I don't know, Mac, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that he's probably in the past has been, am I in the side, am I not in the side, what's my role, because there was too many tools down there. The best thing we ever did was make sure we didn't have either Himmelberg or Frampton down there. All of a sudden, we created a very appropriate forward line, and because you've got probably three different types of players. You've got Thilthorpe, who's tall, thin, can take a good mark and also go on the ground. You've got Fogarty, who's just brute force but can take a mark and also kick a long goal. And you've got Tex, who's got all the cunning in the world, the old Tex has. And the mixture we've got down there at the moment is a very good mixture. And Fogarty is part of it. And that shot that Thilthorpe did, Fogarty's body made sure that the ball did go through. So, I mean, just even little things like that. And I think you are right. I think that he's been told you are a part of this team, and he's been resigned for 2 years, and they just say, now you just get on with it and make yourself the best player you possibly can.
Yep. Now, a couple of things. No, I didn't see Fogarty's interview on 5AA. I try not to listen to 5AA. Vardy Magic, yes, it was, I believe, Peter Vardy that presented Josh Worrell with his Guernsey.
It was.
Great to see Peter Vardy getting involved. Haven't seen him around the place for ages, and Vardy Magic must have had an aneurysm when he saw that. Fantastic stuff. J&M keeps wanting to talk about Patrick Parnell. J&M, listen in on Tuesday night and we'll talk about Patrick Parnell. We don't really, this isn't really the show for that, but we will talk about him on Tuesday night. And joining us right now in the chat is NT Rabbit. How you going, mate?
Not bad, fellas. How was your Sunday evening going?
All the better for you. No, good on you, NT. Let's hear from you, mate.
So I've just a brief comment on yours and my favourite player, Bradley Crouch.
I knew it was coming.
Well, it was certainly the game for him. I just wanted to say we saw the long and the short of Brad Crouch yesterday. The last time we saw him snapping that goal to put them 6 goals up before he disappeared as he jumped back on the chairlift to take him back up the top of the ski slope. And then we saw him right at the end as he was within range of being able to smother that kick from Thilthorpe, and he just sort of stood there and waved his hand pointlessly in the air with all the effort we know and love from him. And thanks again, Bradley.
I thought they were 34 of the most ineffective touches ever seen on an oval, Rabbit, and it's nothing much different to what he used to serve up for us week after week.
I hear that.
Yeah, 100%. All right, mate. Thank you very much. I was going to have a brief moment with Bradley, but I'm glad you stepped up, and I hope Mutiny is listening.
Always happy to chip in.
If Mutiny is listening, then he's just spat his beer out, and he's probably just thrown the device that he's listening on out the window. Thanks, mate.
No.
We've also got 1990 here as well, so we'll bring 1990 in as well. And J-Mac, I hope you've got your stuff sorted, because I'd love to hear from you as well. But 1990, how you going, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, Feenix. How you going, Macca?
Pretty good.
Good to hear from you, mate. You're becoming a regular. Let's hear from you.
Yeah, watched the game last night. I haven't listened into the first hour or so of the show. I was a bit busy, but yeah, when it was halfway through the second quarter, we nearly decided to go watch a movie and not really going to watch the game. But lucky I stuck around and watched it to the end, because it was quite a good finish by the team. Showed a lot of heart to play the way they did towards the end, and it probably hasn't helped our draft picks too much, but it's probably good for the team in the long haul.
Do you think 1990 that, as you mentioned about the draft picks, that a win like this will probably lead to further wins like this?
It's tough to say. It's probably not just going to happen overnight. Like, it's going to be over a couple of seasons of performances like this, where the players become accustomed to winning. Like, you look at the past where teams were going through rebuilds and they just forget how to win. I think wins like that sort of help the team to know how to win when it actually becomes their turn to slowly rise up the ladder. So yes, I do think it will help, but as to how much, I'm not entirely sure how much, because it'll be dependent on a number of factors. Who's coaching, what squad do we have available to us, and experience. So a number of factors, but I guess overall, yes.
Just on coaching, I have to say I think we're pretty lucky at the moment, because to me it appears that this group of coaches, when we play the way they want us to play, are really maximising the effort and ability that we've got on the ground.
You'd have to say yes, because often the criticism of teams when they aren't gelling, or you've got a good squad together, but for whatever reason they can't seem to get up for games, it's the coaches that get accused of being at fault. But obviously our team's quite young, and they're playing to their maximum intensity most weeks, which is why they've been competitive. So I guess a lot of credit does need to go to the coaches.
Look, I was very interested to hear the comments of Matthew Nix and Rory Sloane with regards to Nixie's little chat on the ground after the game, and the commentary team asked Rory what that was all about, and it was interesting that they were actually talking about structure. And what I'm hearing a lot from players at the moment is about structure and how they let themselves down against Collingwood because they didn't execute when they needed to. And one of the reasons they felt like they got over the line this week was because they were able to execute the game plan when it was required. And it seems to me that this isn't just about get the ball and kick the ball. There's very much a game plan that's developing with Adelaide, and a lot of it is based around ground ball gets, but it's also very much about how we shape up. And I really like that, because I feel that that's been an area where our coaching panels in the past have lacked. They've lacked that real tactical edge, and it's been quite simplistic, whereas now I feel like we've got a group of coaches that are willing to talk structure with a young group and bring them along on a particular style of gameplay, but also for the first time I believe we were able to change during the match. And they talked about players versus Collingwood, they didn't read a board, so there must have been a board held up at some point against Collingwood, and they were talking about the message not being able to come out to enough players and they weren't able to execute. But when it got to the same point against St Kilda last night, they were able to execute. And Macca, if you can't hear me, plug your bloody headphones in because everyone else can hear me.
I definitely think there is a game plan that Nix has envisioned right from the very first time he came to the club. You only have to think back to those images where they had Rory Atkins, or whoever it was. I think it was Rory and some other player who was trying to use the cups on the ground to show where they were supposed to be positioned.
Yeah.
And you'll notice that the players that weren't willing to run to those positions that he wants those players to run to in order to have his game plan functioning and actually working, and no longer at the club. You got Rory Atkins, Brad Crouch. Those two were often criticised at not wanting to do the team things, and they very quickly got shown the door.
Yeah.
So I think there definitely is a game plan that Nix has chosen as what he wants the team to play. Obviously, with the young group, it's pretty hard to win consistently, no matter how good your game plan is. But over time, I think we've got the right game plan. It's just a matter of getting the right talent and the right experience in to play it. So, and I think there's every reason to be confident. It's just because you don't have performances like we've seen against Geelong and Melbourne if it's not a good game plan. Yeah, so I think we're on the right path in terms of that aspect in coaching.
It's just you and me at the moment, mate, because Macca's ducked out because his hearing aid fell out, I think. Sorry, Macca.
With Brad Crouch, I was just going to say, it's lucky he's gone to a better club to try and chase successor.
Well, that was a word. That's all we keep hearing from Brad Crouch. I wanted to go somewhere where I could grab a flag. Well, you went to the wrong club, mate, because St Kilda are never going to win a flag.
Definitely went to the wrong club.
Yeah. Look, I don't like to bag people publicly too much, but I think what NT Rabbit said before and what we've said in the past is fairly true of Brad, and he will have big possession games, and he will have games that he does quite well in. Those conditions were made to measure for Brad Crouch getting a lot of the ball because it wasn't travelling very fast. Wait until he has to run up and back a few times.
I think he's actually been far and away their best player this season.
After a slow start, he's been pretty good.
After a slow start, yeah. I think that probably says more about St Kilda than it does Brad Crouch.
Yeah.
Back again.
Yeah, did your hearing aid fall out, mate, did it?
Well, yeah, either my leg fell off or something, but I lost all sound.
Did you go check the letterbox for him or something?
Well, that's probably gone too.
Very good.
We were just talking about coaching Macca and the game plan, so I haven't missed too much, I suppose.
It was the first intelligent conversation we had all night, to be honest.
I know. 99 is very good.
I wouldn't go that far.
All right, mate. Well, thanks very much for joining us. If anyone else wants to join us, you've got about 5 minutes before we finish up. There's a few people there in chat. Macca, just to tidy up, it's been probably as good as first half of the season as you could have hoped for, I reckon.
Yeah, what do we won? We won 5. Played, 13?
13 rounds, yeah.
13. So 9 to go. We could possibly... I thought at the beginning of the year, if we won 8, we would have done very, very well. And I guess that's not impossible. So I probably think we're probably living up to our expectations, I think, and to our ability and to the stage where the team's at.
Yeah. Look, I think the best thing is really... The only game that I felt like we just didn't turn up at all was the GWS game, where I felt we were never in it. But by and large, most of the games that we've played this year, we have been around the mark and we have been in at various stages. We've managed to bring in new players. We've managed to, see some sort of a game plan develop. We've certainly seen a team ethos develop that has been very much player driven in terms of effort and not giving up and accountability and all the rest of it. But we've also seen some chinks in the armour, the slow starts, the inability to execute game plans sometimes under pressure. But that's what you get from a young group, and I feel like it's been a pretty productive first half of the season. Just quickly, SANFL chat. Peter and I will be talking about the SANFL on Tuesday night. So if you do want to have a chat about the SANFL, they did have a good win today. Tune in on Tuesday night for Tuesday Night Live, and we'll be all across the SANFL. So that's how I see it, Mako. The first half of the season.
Yep. Perhaps for a topic next week, and inviting people out there in the chat, we could talk about individuals, their performances so far, and coaches so far, and thoughts about the future and what other things should be done, players coming up, etc. So, there's a lot of things we could talk about next week, and I don't know what you've got in mind, Feen.
No, it'll be around that. It'll be kind of a bit of a deep dive into the squad and where we think players are at, and whether they've got a future, whether they're part of our next premiership push. So it'll be around that. Sorry, go on.
I was saying there's some pretty good brains out there. It'd be good to hear what they think about it too.
Yeah, don't give them too much credit, mate. They want to take over the show soon if you're not careful. Many would argue that wouldn't be a bad thing. Look, all right. Let's finish it up there. We are at the bye, so we will have Tuesday Night Live. We will have the weekend wrap next weekend as well, doing what Macca just described. So get around us. If you are listening to us on YouTube, don't forget to tell your mates, get around the Crowcast, and let's get those subscriptions up so J&M can have super chat and all that sort of stuff. If you want to support us, you can get around us on Patreon. There's instructions on our Discord about how to get around Patreon or PayPal. Just go to patreon.com/AFL Crowcast and follow your nose there. Don't forget the suggestion box on the Crowcast Discord channel as well if you've got something that you want to hear about. I reckon we might be I'm thinking about the Carlton game, Macca, for a bit of a away game booze up. Not booze up, a quiet drink. Pub day, Crowcast pub day. So I think that's around round 15. Let me just have a quick look. Let me just have a look. Fixtures here. When are we playing Carlton? Yeah, so that's round 15. Oh, but it is on a Sunday. No, that's no good. You'll have to the next Saturday away game. We'll hook up a bit of an afternoon at the pub, have a few beers, and people get to know each other. I don't know what location yet. J&M, maybe the Arcabar Sports Bar, or the depending on where people live. We might go to the Ed down at Mitcham. That's always a good spot. Anyway, we'll talk about that some more later on. In the meantime, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. It's been an excellent chat as usual. Don't forget to take care for the rest of the long weekend. And Macca, thanks very much. We'll see you later.
Pleasure. Okay. Night all.
Night, guys.